Awful quiet in here, didn't it? Let's call a meeting to order. All 7 of us are present this evening. Before we get started, I would like to thank our police department and our fire department for answering the all-in call and sending equipment and men and women to Moore, Oklahoma. Thank you. Before we start, I would like to ask for a moment of silence to remember the tornado victims in our state this past week. If you would, please. Thank you. Our invocation this evening will be given by Noah Bailey. Is Noah Bailey here? There,
I sure am.
There he is. Noah, you're on.
Yes, sir.
Please use the mic.
Let's pray together. Our Father in heaven, we come before you with heavy and saddened hearts. Father, we have been reminded this week that you are God and we are not. For Father, though we think we are wise and strong, when we see the fury, the heartbreak, and the misery around us, Father, we are grieved. And Father, we lift up the people of our great state to you, and we place them into your good hands. We say, have mercy on them, O God, and heal them. Be, Father, with the rescue workers and give them grace. Give them strength and give them energy. May they know our prayers and thoughts are with them. Father, we lift up our leaders to you tonight. We thank you for them, and we pray again that they would be in your good hands. Let their deliberations and let their decisions be pleasing to you, O God. May they glorify you. May they act in a way that is wise and gentle and loving and kind. Father, give to them grace to abound in wisdom and to do what is good and just in our city. Father, be pleased to glorify your great name tonight. And be pleased, O God, to glorify your great name in our city and our state. For we lift all of our hurts, our cares, our fears into your hands and say, you are God and we are not. This we pray in your Son's precious and holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Noah. Colonel James, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the rescheduled regular session of May the 6th, 2013.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Mike. Second. Second by Ron. Please cast your vote.
Vote. Yeah, well, that's all right.
Ron doesn't seem to be.
Do we need to clear them? Now you may cast your vote.
Try again. There we go.
Motion carries 7-0. Item 5, awards, presentations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, presentation by Frank Baker and Lynn Dinkendorf, Eagle Marketing. Lynn.
Thank you, Mayor. Pop it here for just a second. I'm Frank Baker, the homely one. With me, Lynn Binkendorf from Eagle Marketing. We just wanted to take a moment to thank the City of Enid for their support of our Roberts Ranch Smoking Red Dirt Barbecue. We've made a presentation to several folks here in the city. We'll do one official one in just a moment. But one of the things that we totaled up before we came to this meeting, and Lynn is going to enumerate the many ways in which the city has helped us throughout the years. One of the things that is incredibly impressive to me is with our partnerships with various nonprofits, and this ranges from Habitat to Humanity, the Enid Noon Ambucks, Miracle League, March of Dimes, also putting money back into our art departments in the school system. Over the course of the 8 years, I think we've estimated we're very close to $250,000 going back to these very worthy causes. And without the city's help, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much. Lynn, I'll let you talk a little bit about some specifics.
If you'll notice on the monitors, you can see I made a little diagram of the areas that we had folks come to our fair city in Enid, so we're really pretty pleased to share that. We had a contestant that came from Massachusetts. His father lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. They both flew to Austin and then drove from Austin up to Enid. But you can see that all the arrows represent 12 states and 97 cities that all came to Enid, so we're very proud of that. That being said, we're here to thank everybody and thank the city for all they've done. We had several folks, especially several have come several years in a row from Tulsa area that they judged. And they specifically told me that our city should be very proud of what we've done for the new convention hall. They were very pleased about the renovation. They said, even with the construction, you guys did a wonderful job. The city did a great thing, and they loved the new building. So we had lots of applause from our visitors of what we're doing downtown Enid. I personally would like to give thanks to, I think the entire Public Works Department needs a month of Employee of the Month, Department of the Month. But I'd like to shout out to a couple folks. Jim McLean and Robinson Camp, they kind of spearheaded the whole department and helped us get everything going. Tiffany Wells, she was instrumental in make sure we had enough receptacles there for all our trash, because we know there's a lot of trash for all of our barbecue guys. Melvin Key, we had to put some water out there for our contestants. So Melvin Key and his crew helped put the water hydrants out there. We appreciate that. Jerry Crawford and the streets department did a wonderful job with all the new areas that we had to block off. And then I'd like to give a big shout out to Bill Hull and his crew. The electrical that we had to do, which is a big thanks to the city and the engineering department with the new parking lot we had. It was instrumental. Again, it was A+ for everybody that came to Enid. And you know, there are several contestants or contests like this in the state. There's over 400 from country to country, and there's like 25. But we keep hearing that a lot of people love coming to Enid because that we're very good hosts, for one. They appreciate what the city does to roll out the red carpet for them. And so we should be very proud of what we've done for this, and all because of a little bit backyard barbecue. So, Frank?
Just one final thing, Mayor Shuey, if I could present you with this commemorative plaque. This was our logo for our 2013 Roberts Ranch Smoking Red Dirt Barbecue. It's even got your name on it and title, so Bill.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you have a date for next year, Frank?
She does. She runs this darn thing.
It's the second weekend of April.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for a job well done. Item 5.2, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
I'm Gene Robertson with the Enid Animal Control. What I brought here tonight is about a 3-month-old, roughly mixed breed pup, female. She is ready for adoption. She needs a good home. We have a lot of animals out there. We need to get our adoption back up again. So come on out. Our hours are 10 to 6 Monday through Friday, and 12 to 3 on Saturday and Sunday.
Keep that one yourself, don't you? Thank you. Item 5.3, recognize Meadow Lake Golf Course Bridge renovation efforts.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm going to ask Cody Light to come up here and make a presentation, but I want to preface his remarks by saying that the work that was done here was with the talents and skill of a number of our city employees. And he's not on the list, but I want to recognize Billy McBride for his leadership and contribution to this effort. It's a tremendously good story. Cody, tell us about it.
I will, thank you. And I just want to thank you, Commissioner, Mr. Benson, Joan, for letting me come here. This is I'm very honored and pleased with the outcome of this, and that's why I wanted to do a very short presentation to you so you can see exactly what we're recognizing these wonderful guys for what they've done. And Mr. Benson, you don't have to worry. I've got his name on. He's not sneaking out of this. So Just wanted to show you one picture, and this is actually our longest bridge. I believe it's about 50 foot long. This was back in November, and this is actually our best bridge. This is the best one that we had. We had to remove, when we removed, you can see the I-beams were exposed, so we were having issues. One of the main things we needed to do was obviously repair this. We brought Billy out, being our safety guy, plus he has over 30 years of bridge building background, so we wanted to make sure was everything done right, but we were doing it right. Just to kind of show you what we'd done, this is basically what they did. The guys stripped the bridges all the way down to the main beams. Billy, along with, excuse me, back it up. Along with Jerry Crawford and Jim McLean, we had a lot of input just to make sure everything was safe before we started putting anything in place. And if you see before, that's the bridge on the right that's completed. 100% steel, everything's done the right way. The second bridge, it's the same thing. Stripped it down, everything was checked, inspected before they started. And if you can see there on to the right, that is that completed bridge. And before I go any further, once we get to this part right here, this is the third bridge we covered. And if you noticed, we wanted, like I said, when we stripped everything down, we wanted to make sure everything not only is great, but was done the right way. And we found some areas of erosion where the cart paths were sinking, water had gotten in, it's just happened over time. So we wanted to make sure, since we'd come this far, we wanted to make sure that it was done right. That way we don't have to worry about this again. So you can see there to the right, that's when we started with the bracing. You can see with the next one, that's when they started backfilling both sides with concrete. So the wood is no longer an issue. It's actually one solid concrete structure. Used approximately about 9 yards of concrete to take care of this. So now we do not have to worry about the erosion issue anymore. Because of all of this, we had to tear out a whole bunch of cart path to get to that with the equipment and the digging, okay? This is showing pictures of the guys getting ready to pour the concrete. You saw there on the right after it poured, you can see the cement truck up there as well. That's how great job they did getting it leveled and done the right way. This is to show you a picture of both sides completed. Very nice, very level. Better than was before, which is obviously our goal with all of it. That's the completed bridge as well. We didn't want to get to that area, obviously, until we had the foundation areas and everything taken care of. The last bridge that you see there on the right, the before, that's the bridge I showed you at the beginning, which is our longest bridge, and that was the best. Same thing as before, stripped it down to the bears. You can see on the right side the completed project. The kind of joke here now is that the gentleman we're going to be talking about, they took pictures and they all were leaning against this. And the joke is they would have never dreamed with the old bridges, if they'd have leaned on it, they'd have fell in. They were worried about the stability. Now with it all being steel, everything done the right way, safe, we'll never have to worry about these bridges again with the exception of painting them. So this project started in November and they finished it about first week of March. So it took a little time during the winter, but the guys did a great job getting it done. This is what I wanted you guys to see as well. Not necessarily Lance painting it, but that is Lance, one of the gentlemen tonight as well, painting. This is something that we did in-house. Our guys took this project on. Great support from people within the city of Enid. But you can see there a total cost of $15,000 is all we spent. And if we were to have outsourced this, and this is estimated, and I've got this from a few others, but obviously Billy, who knows a lot about bridge building, it would have been easily $30,000 per bridge if we would have done it. So that's a savings of over $100,000. These guys did by stepping up and really going above and beyond, as you would say, the Call of Duty. It's out of their comfort zone. They took personal pride into this, ownership, and worked a lot of hours, and I think the results speak for themselves. I just wanted to make sure here, that's why I said, and I even put Billy at first. Obviously, Billy, being the safety director and his experience, we couldn't have done without him. Ruby Kaz would say that as well. He was out there every time we had an issue. If there was a call, he was out there to make sure everything was done right. Jim McLean and Jerry Crawford providing us the resources we needed. You know, the certain equipment that we didn't have that we needed to get the projects done. And then obviously you see there Jimmy Rivera, Michael League, Earl Lamb, Granson Nash, and Lance Brewer. These guys did a fantastic job, something to be proud of. I hope the city is proud of it. I've received numerous positive comments.
Buddy, why don't you bring those fellows forward here? Bring all, not you, them.
While they're coming up, I will say this, and so the commission knows, I've received numerous positive comments in regards to how much better they look. Not only do they look better, safer. I know there's some golfers, some are here that's played, that's even seen them as well. This is an outstanding achievement. I'm proud of all of them.
I wish you'd brought your little baby with you.
What's that? Yeah, Lance should have brought the little one with you. Yeah, they.
Hey, well done.
As a middle-aged golfer, I'd like to commend the cooperation and the work those gentlemen did. It's a great improvement out there.
Thank you. Ma'am, your baby's perfectly fine tonight. That baby doesn't bother us, don't worry. Item 5.4, recognize first place branding, rebranding, campaign blue, pencil, and gold screen award. Is that you, Eric?
Joan's gonna make this
Joan?
presentation.
I'm sorry.
Surprise.
Okay. As most of you know, over a year ago, we began a process of branding Enid, trying to come up with a new brand, new logo, new identity for Enid. There were so many changes and so much greatness on the horizon and outlook. We wanted to add to that with a new branding opportunity. We started with a large representation of the city, brought a lot of people in, got their input as to what they like about Enid, what they didn't like about Enid, what was good, what was bad. We just wanted to get a picture of Enid. We took that to a little bit smaller group and spent about a day and a half coming up with how we would describe Enid. What is Enid? Who is she? What does she stand for? What does she stand for in the past, the present, the future? All those things. And the process then moved from there to even smaller group of people that work together at least once a month, most of the time once a month, there for quite a while, representing the intergovernmental entities in town from the Regional Development Alliance, the Enid Main Street, the Visitors Bureau, the City of Enid, of course, and I'm forgetting one. Chamber of Commerce. We had representatives from each of those, and we worked together a lot of hours coming up with who Enid is and where we want to stand and how we want to portray ourselves. The effort was not lost. The end product was well received by the public when it was unveiled. It has been well received by visitors that come through town as they see the branding on the event center and various other entities. But the biggest accomplishment that I believe we accomplished in this is not only having a great brand and a great logo and things to move forward with, but it was the fact that we had 5 entities in town that came together, worked very well together, and we all walked away loving the end result and implementing it right off the bat. If you look at Regional Development Alliance logo and you look at CDV's logo and Main Street, it's all, you're going to see the basic logos the same, and we're all in agreement. There were several people that were very instrumental in that, and let me see who is here. We have Kevin Fusion, and if you'll come up, and Derek Silas, Marcy Jarrett. Who am I missing here? There was also John Blankenship from the Chamber, Lisa Powell, and Rick Kisling. Kelly Tompkins, Kara Carson. Thank you. Rob Houston, Mike Clemming. All of these people just spent some tireless hours going over this. And if you've ever gotten a group of people together to try to come up with an artistic idea or accomplishment, we all think differently. It's not always easy. This group worked together very well. I will say that Kevin Friesian was absolutely the best leadership that we could have ever had in this as a graphic designer and helping us go the right directions. But as part of the reward of all this hard work, not only do we love it, but Derek Silas down there was able to receive a national award of first place achievement for a city branding itself, and back a few weeks ago. And so this brand, made by people from within our own city, was recognized nationally for its for all aspects. But most importantly, that we were able to do it within ourselves, and the end product has such meaning and character.
We have several proclamations to give tonight.
We do. First of all, one of the more important ones here. Molly Helm, would you come up here, please? Molly Helm's one of my favorite people, and she does a tremendous amount for our community, and she's contributing tonight in a manner that almost any mother that I know of would be most proud. So, Molly, if you'll come right up here, I'm going to ask your son Harrison to come up here and join us. Molly has given this community, this young man who is a senior in high school this year, is Harrison Maude. Now, Harrison and I have a little bit of a relationship that goes back because we share a common interest in giving to our community. Now, I get that from a lot of sources, but I know that Harrison got his from his mom. She, as you know, is a well-seasoned public servant, and it must be genetic, because her son tonight is the subject of a proclamation I want to read. It says that whereas Harrison Lee Maude is a senior at Enid High School and the co-CEO and founder of the Give Me a Shot Foundation. The foundation was established several years ago by 3 Enid High School basketball players, Harrison Lee Maude, Connor Landis Schote, and Eduardo Freitas Lima III, so they could give back to their community and share their passion for basketball, because the sport has provided them with skills and character traits necessary for being successful in sports and in life. The Give Me a Shot Foundation's goal is to raise funds to purchase basketballs for children throughout the community, as well as other worthwhile basketball-related projects, and to interact with these kids while having fun, inspiring them to aim high. The Give Me a Shot Foundation hopes to impact kids by being positive role models, by teaching the importance of setting and reaching goals, developing leadership, work ethic, and communication skills, while encouraging participation in team sports, and to live healthy lifestyles and maintain good grades. This past week, Harrison raised enough money that the city can match to provide basketball goals, nets, and balls for one of our largest and highest used basketball courts in the city. So today, I, Bill Shuey, Mayor of the City of Enid, do hereby proclaim May 21st, 2013 as Harrison Lee Maude Day. Steve, I think you have something for the mayor. We require all proclamation recipients to say a few words. It's just the rules.
I'd like to thank Eric Benson and the City of Enid. many times at school I had to email him in the bathroom due to the policy of not having cell phones. But I got it done. I want to thank Connor Choate and Eddie. They had fun at college when I was doing this, but without their expertise, Give Me a Shot wouldn't be, it wouldn't be around. You know, I was at the courts, and I was just incredibly annoyed because I know I'm a good shooter, and it was not going in. And I realized that these rims are just like the tri-state rims, and I don't even get a bear. And so I'm thinking, you know what? If I can just figure out a way to raise enough money to get good quality, I want the best rims in this court, because every single time I drive down Main, you know, especially in this weather, there's just kids all over the place. And so I talked to some people, and we got it done. So thank you very much.
Deborah K. Smith, you're here with us tonight. Come on up here, Kay. And Juanita Thomas, I think she's with us as well. And Norman Pottorff, if you'd come forward. Mr. Mayor, I'm really pleased to make this proclamation of these three folks, and I want to tell you a little bit about each one of them. Turn around here, Norman, where the cameras can see you. Block their view of me. That'd be a good thing. Kay Smith's been a citizen of Enid since 1997. She's a devoted wife and has a passion for her faith in Christ and for the cleanliness of Enid. She assembled and led a group of people to collect trash on Oakwood Road and the Enid public trails, providing many hours enhancing the appearance of Enid. The City of Enid appreciates Kay Smith for her dedication and efforts to keep Enid clean. Now with her, Juanita Thomas has similarly devoted a tremendous number of hours in the beautification of Enid, and particularly our public trails. And her efforts have made the trails an enjoyable experience for all. Now this young man here, Norman Pottorff, has lived in Enid for 8 years, and he's a very devoted citizen. He's kind of an inspiring gentleman, like these two ladies with him. He is also one of those who is quite enamored with the appearance of Enid and takes it upon himself to personally address that appearance. He has done an ample amount of effort with these two young ladies to ensure that our city trails are have the appearance that the community desires. So therefore, today, our mayor, Bill Shuey, does hereby proclaim May 21st, 2013 as Norman Pottorff, Deborah K. Smith, and Juanita Thomas Day. Norman, thank you, my friend. No, sir.
Good job.
5.6.
Item 5.6, resolution of support for Coke nitrogen. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, I know you're aware of this, and it's been great news in our community that our great neighbors, Coke Nitrogen, have decided to invest $1 billion in our community in the expansion of their nitrogen production plant on the east side of town. We recently identified Coke Nitrogen as a partner by a Coke Nitrogen proclamation, Coke Nitrogen Day and Enid proclamation. But this resolution declares the intent of the city to support Coke Nitrogen in its plans to expand local plant operations and proclaim the city's appreciation of Coke Nitrogen for its dedication. It reads, in May 2013, Coke Nitrogen announced plans to increase its local plant operations. The expansion will place approximately $1 billion in the local economy, creating 800 construction jobs and approximately 30 new permanent employees. Koch's plan will increase the use of gray water and ultimately reduce Koch Nitrogen's potable water use, that's the drinking water, by over 5 million gallons per day. And I think I underscore everybody's opinion when I say that Koch Nitrogen has been and continues to be a most responsible, empowering corporate citizen. The mayor and the board of commissioners of the city of Enid, Oklahoma declare the city's intent to support Koch Nitrogen in its efforts to expand local plant operations and proclaim the city's appreciation of Koch Nitrogen for its dedication to the city of Enid. In particular, I want to express my thanks to Dr. Van Hooser for whose idea originated this resolution and for the superb nature of his suggestion.
I will gladly recommend approval of the resolution of support for Koch Nitrogen.
Motion by Mike, second by David. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Good idea, David. Item 5.7, appointment by the mayor to the park board. Joan?
Mayor and Commissioners, the Park Board has a commissioner as part of the board, and Commissioner Stuber has resigned that placeholder, and it is up to the mayor to reappoint that position.
Do we need nominations?
Do we need to vote on the resignation first, or can we do it together?
I don't believe there's a need.
You just appoint somebody.
I think it's just an appointment, or if you prefer to.
I believe Commissioner Zell has shown.
By a new appoint, yes.
I think, Mayor, we should also point out that while Commissioner Stuber is leaving this position in the park board, it's because he is assuming other responsibilities that replaces that. He is, as is normally the case, in the second and third year, those commissioners with that tenure move to other positions in the advisory boards.
He has done a good job, and he has his boat loaded. We thank you, Mike. Ben?
Yes, sir.
Appoint you as the new park board commissioner.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Big shoes to fill. You can do it.
We'll manage. Mike, you can keep coming to the meetings. Just sit in the back. And
I will try to fit in my schedule.
Again, Mike, good job. Under item 6, hearings, there are none. Item 7, community development, there are none. Item 8, under administration, 8.1, consider a resolution amending the 2012-2013 health fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $742,000 to increase the 2012-2013 appropriated amounts for the health fund. Gerald?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, what this is a resolution to increase the budget, just like you read, Mayor. This is unusual. I can say it's unusual. In the 8 years I've been here, I've never recall asking for a budget amendment for the health fund. Typically, what we budget is enough, but this year it has not been enough because of the unusually high number of claims that we've had. You'll remember when we talked about the health fund in one of the budget meetings, we talked about we were having a bad claims year. Well, we are. The good news is that we have funds that are built up from surpluses in previous years in this fund that we would draw from in this case. This resolution is asking to increase the budget about $742,000 exactly to make up what it appears that what we're projecting that we will go over budget on in health claims. We still have 2 health claims bills to pay for the month of May and June. Those bills are based on actual claims from the previous month, and those bills have been averaging about $400,000 a month. You can see when at the time that I wrote this item, we had spent $3.2 million already, which is approximately the budget amount that we budgeted at. We typically budget at what's called the 90% of the aggregate amount, which is based on previous claims history and expectations for the future. That has always served us well until this year, and typically our consultant that we have now working with Sonia Key has told us that That's typically the case, that about once or twice out of every 7 years, you will exceed that 90% level. We've done that this year. The good news is there's money in that health fund. This will, we're projecting the health fund with this appropriation, should you approve it, we estimate would be about $1.4 million at the end of the year. So there's plenty of money to cover it, but we need to raise the budget because we're going to exceed it or not be able to pay the health claims otherwise.
You're talking about the reserve fund?
Yes, the health reserve fund.
After the payment?
Yes.
Or the transfer?
After, if you approve this and the claims indeed come in that high for the next 2 months, we're projecting a $1.4 million balance.
And Gerald, this does not include any workman's comp claims, is that correct?
No, this
It's
is
completely separate, just for City of Enid employees.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
Motion by Ron,
I'll second.
second by Ben. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8.2, discuss and take necessary action on the fiscal year 2013-2014 City of Enid budget. Gerald?
Yeah, and I'll just briefly introduce and then talk about what we're going to cover tonight. Like I said in the study session, Dan Onisword is going to talk to you about the airport budget. Then the Chief O'Rourke is going to talk about the 4 different police funds that we have. And then Chief Jackson will finish up with fire. That's what we have planned for you tonight. And we will, Annette will tell us what budget page we're on so you can follow along as they talk about it if you'd like to. So with that, I think, Dan, you're up.
Page 89.
Page 89 in your budget book.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, and Mr. City Manager. As you are aware, I'm sure the airport fund is an enterprise fund. We have to balance the revenues along with the costs, the expenses, and the budget proposed in front of you tonight is a balanced budget. Except for the runway extension project and a few other things that I'll highlight, the budget is very similar to last year's with a few exceptions of increases like in personnel, and I believe you already talked about those. The runway extension is huge. It's a huge part of the budget. A lot of it has already been done. We have completed the survey. The environmental assessment was out for comment. It is actually completed with no comment, as far as I know, so that's on its way to the FAA. The wildlife study is ongoing, and that has not overturned any issues. The design of the road movement is underway, and land purchases are underway as well. So we're well on track with this. We met with the FAA a couple months ago, and they agree we are on track with this project. We expect to break ground for the road diversion late in July and the runway extension itself in January. Okay. Talking about the revenues, as you, I believe, know, our revenues are based mostly upon our leases, our hangar leases, land leases, and then our fuel sales. Our fuel sales may cause you a little concern because of the volatility in the price, but we make sure that we maintain the same profit margin as from year to year. So the budget in front of you reflects the amount of fuel that we've sold this year and last year, about 290,000 gallons of jet fuel, about 50 to 55,000 gallons of avgas. And we monitor that closely. In fact, I check the fuel prices of our competitors daily to make sure that we're in line. The other bit in the revenue column are the grants for the runway extension. ODOT, $475,000. The Military Planning Commission, $250,000. The Aeronautics Commission, $2.5 million. And then a transfer from the EMA of $1.3 million for a total of about $4.6 million dedicated towards the bulk of the runway extension project. As I mentioned, a lot of it has already been done. A lot of the money has already been encumbered currently, and this would be the bulk of it for next year. Now, the project won't be completed next year, but I envision all the money will be encumbered for the project. Other things that are in the budget that you see there, we have standard building facility maintenance things that need to go on. We take care of hangars, hangar doors. We take care of taxiways, apron areas, crack seals. Those are important things that have to go on all the time. Mowers, equipment, some of the fuel trucks, we constantly providing maintenance on those things. There's a provision in there for a front-end loader to put on the front of one of our tractors we bought a couple years ago. There's also a line item in there to dedicate $10,000 to the Vietnam Memorial Bed Down for your consideration as well. A couple of capital outlays that we need to do in the next year. We need to get another Jet A, used Jet A fuel truck. The one we have is just limping along. She gets along okay, but we really need that backup, so we want to replace that. We need a four-wheel vehicle, utility vehicle type of thing that we can take out in the woods along the perimeter fence. A lot of people call that a mule. It's about $7,500. And then we need to put some interior gates within the airport so that people coming on, I expect we'll get a lot more visitors in the next few years because of the Vietnam Wall. We need to keep those people from riding out onto the taxiways, so we'll be putting some interior gates in there. This is the budget proposed in front of you. Are there any questions?
Ken, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's the required bed down cost for the Vietnam Veterans Wall?
The actual required, we don't really know. It's about $100,000 to $150,000. It depends on the amount of in-kind donations we get. We are right now shooting for $150,000.
I'm begging the council's indulgence here. Would you consider approving this $10,000 with a contingency up to $20,000 if the fundraising failed to reach its desired goal?
Come in lower.
Would be a minimum of 10, but if another 10 was required to close the gap to bed it down completely, would the council favorably consider it?
What's the time frame required on that bed down?
We want to have it bed down by Veterans Day, the 11th of November. That's our plan right now.
And has some of that work already commenced?
Yes, the foundation's in place. The apex at the nose of the wall, if you will, is built. We need to build the rest of the wall, the sidewalks, the lots of other things, lighting, and then lots of landscaping as well.
Are you doing this kind of as a pay-as-you-go type of?
At this point, we are. We have been getting some assistance in kind. For example, the architect bit, it was totally free, and that's worth about $40,000, I understand. Concrete, we were getting at a little bit of a discount, and the labor so far has been free as well. A lot of rebar has been donated as free as well.
No, along with this, it's a little different, but it's related to to what we're talking about here. To me, we need to put an appropriate sign out there on 412 so the people that are coming to town find our airport and to view this Vietnam Wall can know where it is. I don't think what the signage you got out there is adequate in any way, shape, or form.
I agree with you 100%. People drive by there all the time and miss it. I'm working with Rob Camp. We have a design in mind. I've talked to the landowners for the area where we want to put it. They have favorably said go for it. And Andrea is working up an agreement with them so that we can put the sign in there. And then I would hope in the next month or so we'll be able to put it up.
Do we have any idea how much the sign would cost?
The city, I believe, is going to be doing it.
Ah, okay.
So I don't think it'll cost.
How big a sign are we talking about?
I believe we wanted 16 feet by about 8 feet.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good sign.
On
two-sided
directions?
Yes, it's going to be two directions. As you, if you drive on 412 and you intersect with 66th Street, the portion of land to the southeast in that farmland is where we put it.
So you're talking one sign, just two-sided, not two signs?
Correct. One sign that is two-sided.
Great.
That ought to be a lot better than what we got.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mr. Benson, I would accept that caveat that if the fundraising falls short, we would go up to 20,000. And do we need any other
Was that a motion, or do we need to?
We need a motion on this, is that, okay. I would make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Tammy. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Now, do we need a motion to approve the budget?
Not yet, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
It's a presentation tonight.
sorry about that.
Any other questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Chief?
Before the chief starts, Mayor and Commissioners, I want to lead this with an observation. As you know, the police chief and the fire chief have independent budgets that they'll explain tonight, but they report for the most part to the police and/or the fire civil service commission. They don't, by charter, work for the city manager, but I want to tell you that the three of us are, in my opinion, they may not share this opinion, but I think we're a great team. I think we have two extraordinary chiefs. They're a delight to operate with. They're treasured friends. I simply want both of them to know that they have my strongest confidence. They're extraordinary businessmen. They're great leaders. But that doesn't mean you get all your money.
I'm not sure I've ever been called a delight before.
Yeah, hang on to that. It might not come around.
It's on record.
Mayor, I want you to know, first off, that when the incident in Moore happened, we asked for volunteers at the PD and also at the fire department, that we filled all the necessary slots within about 15, 20 minutes. And we sent a second shift, and we'll probably send a third shift. We sent a third shift tonight. All those spots were filled within minutes of asking for volunteers. So we're going to hang with those people down there in need until we're not needed.
I assume both of you would go and didn't even ask. Good job. I thank them for all this.
Mayor, Commissioner, and Eric, I have 4 funds to go over. I have a big PowerPoint presentation. I wish I had 67 slides. I'm sure you've seen enough. First one is going to be Fund 12.
120.
Page 120 in your budget book.
Thank you.
It'll be Fund 12. It's called Police Special Projects.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say, that's 911.
I quit.
I'm trying to go.
There you go.
Okay. It's called Police Special Projects. What this fund is basically made up of different incomes from restitution, which is Special Projects 1. Special Projects 2 is state seized funds from drug seizures. Special Projects 3 is federal drug fund seizures. We try to separate them out that way. It's really difficult to gauge revenue on these funds because you never know what seizure funds are going to come in because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We do have a substantial sum coming in, probably make next fiscal from the federal government. That should be, and we have another one in process well over $100,000. We actually just budget expenses out of this, sort of gauge what we think we're going to spend. Most of the time, this fund is used for drug investigations, used for drug investigative equipment, and items along those lines. A lot of times when we use seizure funds from the state, what they call the revolving fund, we'll get it from the DA's office, we'll buy a piece of equipment, a vehicle, something along those lines. We'll deposit in special projects, take it out of special projects. So we sort of move the money through that account. It's a little difficult to explain the concept behind that, but basically if you think this is just drug seizure funds and restitution, that's what it is. And it's built over the years. We have a pretty substantial balance in these accounts, and specifically we pretty well use it for drug investigations and equipment, which some of it is quite expensive. So we probably will be buying a couple undercover vehicles this year, and that reflects in the expenses. Any questions on that? We usually make a profit on this every year.
Are those a percentage of monies seized, and how does that work?
If we seize to the federal government, which we have one in process right now, they take 20% off the top for their seizure action, and we recover 80%. In the investigation I'm thinking about, they seized about $1.1 or $1.2 million, and we're going to get 7 to 11% of that. And that's a pretty healthy seizure. Last year we got $58,000 from the state. And we also have a balance in the revolving fund, probably about 70 to 80,000, which is at our disposal, at our request. So in short, our narcotics operations are well-funded, and they're somewhat self-funded. Any questions on special projects? Okay, moving on, we'll go to 911, which is Fund 50.
Now page 120.
Thank you.
The Police Department also covers the 911 funds and the 911 operations. That's part of our purview. 911 is funded by landline and wireless fees. In the past few years, that funding has fallen because landlines have fallen. Wireless and VoIP is only funded at 50 cents a month. Some of this is falling down as landlines go away. What we've done to offset some of the costs on that is the Fund 51, the Police Department Fund, and also the Fire Fund gives 911, they transfer 50,000 each for a total of $100,000 per year. We also this year, and these figures, we don't know how they're going to turn out, but this is probably less optimistic. We recently picked up Major County. We don't have them quite in process yet. They're still doing some of their mapping. We will actually be doing 911 calls for Major County, which in turn, we get their revenue from their 911 fees. So we will get their landline fees, we'll get their wireless fees, and their VoIP fees. We estimate that, you can see in the revenue, landline, a lot more landlines in Major County than are in Garfield County, about $120,000 in revenue. There is some higher expenditures, of course, because of the health insurance and salaries have gone up a touch. We have also picked up some extra services. We also upgraded our 911 system to basically a state-of-the-art system right now. We're the only one in the state running it. So it is a little bit more expensive. As far as I know, right now, ending this fiscal, we're coming in under budget from last year. We will do our best to do the same thing this year. There's always a little bit of savings because there is some high turnover in 911, and we'll save some savings, get some people hired. But it's a pretty cost-effective operation, and it's a very well-run operation. Lieutenant Singleton and Kevin Morris do a heck of a job on it. So, and in the future, if the fund balance shrinks any further, we'll probably do a little bit more subsidizing out of Fund 51. But we should be able to maintain.
I do have a question here. As somebody who sits on that board and sees those dwindling fees coming in from landline fees, which average $1.50 to each cellular is 50 cents, so they're seeing their funding drop. Are the transfers from police and fire, is that sustainable? Or because from what I understand at the state legislative level, there's not any indication that they're looking at increasing those fees. So right now there's not a solution for that funding. Is there any, I mean, can you just carry on doing that?
Yes, I can do that easily. And we're hoping that we have talked to state legislators about getting those fees from 50 cents to $1 or $1.50, and there's some resistance to that from the wireless outfits, and apparently they've appointed somebody at a high salary to study it. So, you know, it's government in action. So hopefully they'll get that figured out, because that drop in fees, drop in landlines is hurting every 911 center in Oklahoma. It's not just us.
Right.
But we were, you know, we still were able to do our upgrades and change our operations. And grabbing Major County is good. We're going to try to get an extra county or two if we can.
That seems to be a good move, and I think there's even a move to regional, what they call a op.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're striving to be.
What does this note on the revenue side about North Enid at zero? Are we doing North Enid or dropping North Enid, or what is that?
That just has to do with the way that we used to break fees out and the way they used to come to us. We don't use that account anymore. So
Okay.
It's got a zero, so it's got no relevance anymore.
Sure.
Any questions on 911? Moving on, we'll go to Fund 51. which is the actual police fund. This one is, and I've spoken with a lot of new commissioners, and the other ones that have been around for a while know that how we're funded. We're funded 20% of the city's general revenue after some debt service. And I do want to say that I talked to a lot of chiefs across the state, and they're extremely jealous of the way we're funded. Because that's not, that we're very unique in the state, and it works. It works well. We're showing an increase, of course, in revenues this year of over $300,000 from last year, or transfers from the city, excuse me. We're running a slight deficit at the moment of about $98,000. I will tell you that in the past 10, 11 years that I've run this budget, we've never done an appropriation. We've never gone over budget. We've always run a deficit budget usually. We have a very healthy fund balance, and as of this year, as of end-of-year projections, now some of this is due to our shortages that we should come in probably in the area of $600,000 under budget. So we're doing fiscally well, and we are fiscally responsible. Most of these expenses that we're putting in, a lot of them are recurring, so they're the same every year. A lot of the same fees every year, a lot of the same, especially with software maintenance agreements, they seem to go up every year. We have combined a couple accounts, so that's why the 4407, we combined that account, the computers, along with all the maintenance agreements, so you see a huge jump in that. But we're going to keep up with technology. We're using all kinds of technology, all kinds of different services, which, you know, with those you have to pay to play, but we're able to do that. Some of the biggest expenses that we're looking at next year, and this, my copy at least, is stamped red draft because there is going to be a couple extra changes at the end here. On the capital outlay, our biggest expenses are vehicles, pretty much. We're done with the building over there, which was a huge expense for the past few years. We're going to transition eventually into a different kind of vehicle. We're going to get rid of some of our vehicles. We're going to, not necessarily our marching, but our SWAT van and our evidence van, we're going to upgrade that. We're going to professionalize it. We're going to go top shelf with it. We can afford to do that. We're going to add a few units on our building. When we did the reconstruction there, we added all new units. We had 11 of them that are still old. We had one fail here recently that we had to change. We're going to go ahead and go with all new HVAC units, which is going to cost us about $70,000, but very well worth it. I have a little bit more work to do out at the animal control to put a shade cover over that fencing that we put up, which has been real well received out there. And I have here for a storage unit because we do want to buy, I don't know whether you call them mules, whether you call them gators or whatever, probably a four-seater, and I think Captain Skaggs talked about it downstairs to help with the trails and downtown events. I'm going to need somewhere to put it, and it needs to be on site. So we're going to kick around doing some kind of storage or something to match our building and brick and stick in our back parking lot and take a look at getting something done. I think I'm a little low on that, so I'll probably raise that up. I might also raise up some of the vehicle costs. And by the ordinance, and we didn't talk about the public safety sales tax, and I'll touch on that real briefly, that's increasing every year. And by ordinance, we have to spend 30% of that on capital outlay. Now, with the building and everything that we spent through the years, we're probably in 70% area, but I try every year at least to spend 30% of that income in capital outlay. So that's pretty, it sustains us real well in some of our bigger So, and we will be investigating tablet-based technology for in-vehicle. And there's some applications on that. I think laptops are probably not the thing so much anymore, and I think a lot of the applications that we're seeing that work well for law enforcement is tablet-based, and that's, I think, where we want to go. So that price might change a little bit, but I think we'll see. Other than that, I expect fully to be able to maintain the extra 5 people. They're already budgeted in these personnel figures, and we should be just fine. And we're going to keep improving and keep doing bigger and different things.
The jail contract with the county, the $108,000, has that been sufficient for us? Are we going to, between us and the county, tap out that facility anytime soon?
That has been the same price ever since we entered into this agreement, I think in 2004, 2005. And
Okay.
talked to the sheriff, and that's not going to change this year.
And the new facility is meeting our needs?
New facility?
New county facility?
Well, yes. I mean, it works well. The agreement works well. Working with the county on that works well. Now, their issues is it's full. It's overfull.
That's more what I'm getting at is, I know Jerry keeps it pretty full out there. And
they guarantee us 15 beds.
Okay. And that 15 beds meets our need?
Yeah.
Good enough.
Most of the time, Commissioner, when we arrest somebody, a lot of times there is probably a city charge, but if there's a county charge, say DUI, some extra,
sure,
it's all going to go state, so it doesn't count towards our bed when they're charging a state crime.
Got it.
Did you say that figure's 108,000
Annually.
Help me.
Yeah,
1110.
Mayor, it's $108,000.
Under professional services?
And 1110. It's been the same price ever since we entered into the agreement.
Great.
Basically, what that figure was contrived from the salaries that we paid our jailers and some operations cost.
It's getting smaller as I scroll down, Brian.
Oh, yeah. That's why I've got so I don't have to squint. Is there any questions on the police budget? Any questions about what we're doing or where we're heading? I mean, you heard downstairs that we want to expand and offer new services downtown.
Tell me again when you expect to have the 5 new patrolmen.
As soon as Captain Scaggs can hire them. And he said, if we get 9 this time, and then we'll keep the process going and get as many as we possibly can until we get to where we're full. If we can keep them, we can maintain them. And the issue is that from day one when they walk in the door, really a rookie officer is not viable for a year. So it's tough. But we have 5, 6, 7 right now in process. And as soon as they get out on the street, count towards minimum staffing, we'll be able to start doing some of the things we want to do.
I assume the entry requirements have not changed.
Have not.
I seem to recall reading in the paper within the last year a salary comparison among entering patrolmen amongst the very similar sized cities in Oklahoma. Where do we compare? Are you happy with where we are?
We need to raise our bottom end salary, definitely. And we're working on that through negotiations with the union and with the city manager. And right now where we are, in some regards where we are, some of our upper rank staff or upper ranks, we're okay. We should be around the eighth largest in Oklahoma by population. And some of those figures, there's some that pay better, some that pay a little bit worse. In our starting salary, I'm not happy with where it's at now. And we're starting right now at $29,800 base pay, and some of the cities around us, at least in the OML figures that I've seen, are starting quite higher, usually 2 to 30, almost 35,000 a year starting salary.
What percentage of the force is in that lower tier?
There's probably 8 right now in the lower tier. Now, a large majority of the force, I'd say we call them 5 and down. I have it very young. So there's quite a few that our starting hourly rate was probably just under $15 an hour, and I probably have a majority right now under $18, $19 an hour, which it needs to grow for retention. And this is why I'm so short, is because it's tough to compete with somebody that raises a flag and says, I'll pay you $25 an hour.
How long does it take to complete those negotiations?
Where it's ongoing, and we should be hopefully done fairly soon. I had a meeting, a labor management meeting today with the union, and hammered out a few things. So I think we'll have to get back to the table and get it done. It's pretty simple if we can do that.
other questions?
One more. It is Fund 52, it's CIC. This is very simple. CIC is a community intervention center, which is an operation within our operation. It is grant-funded state through DHS, Department of Human Services, or OJA, Office of Juvenile Affairs. Majority is funded by them. What that is just a juvenile holding facility. If a juvenile is arrested on status crimes, possession, runaway, whatever, they're taken there, they're dropped off there, the officers can go back to their duties after the court, and the CIC personnel watch that person. We have the holding facility there. It's just sort of a room, very bare room, and they contact the parents and they arrange the court dates. They also do a lot of drug testing for drug court, and so they're kept pretty busy. The best thing it does is let the officer get back out on the street, show up where they find somebody. Again, it's grant funded. The grant has shrunk when the state had some financial issues. It shrunk down right now to $179.25, which that's the same as last year. So they're also subsidized by Fund 51. You'll see in our transfer line in Fund 51 that we give them $75,000 a year. And we also run the juvenile mentor program, and that's when you see the kids in the yellow vest picking up cigarette butts and the like, and washing cars and pulling weeds. So it's pretty straightforward. They're a very low-cost operation. Obviously, their biggest expense is personnel. We've recently, last year, remodeled their area. We put in a new camera system. And I did notice that was mentioned twice, and that's already been done. So there's really no huge expenditures coming out of there. We usually do upgrade their computer. They have 3 computers, usually 1 every year. So it's really, like I said, a low-cost, great operation. It's Jason Chapman is the director, and he does an outstanding job. And it's able to be used by all the county agencies, campus police, sheriff's office, whoever wants to use Wacomas. Any questions on CIC?
We were asked recently to fund a bed at the Youth and Family Services, if I have that correct. What is the difference or comparison between CIC and that?
That's the fund, the bed at Youth and Family is more of a placement. It's pretty much a necessity in some regards that we need sometimes. That's a long-term. CIC is only no more than 24 hours. And CIC is not a placement, it's a holding facility. As soon as we get a kid in, we try to find a parent or relative to get them back out and set them a court date. If a child needs to be placed, it allows us to get a child placed at Youth and Family where they can have long-term stay. They keep it fairly secure up there. It's a really good operation.
Is one a lockdown facility versus the other? I mean, is Youth and Family, are they locked down there?
I don't know if they're a strict lockdown, but they're very secure. The way Dan runs that up there, it's a very secure operation.
It's not a detention facility.
No, that's not a detention facility.
So there's your difference.
The detention facility is down on Mercer Drive, and that's OJ, that's a state, and that's a lockdown.
CIC, are they locked down there?
No, they're just stuck in a room with usually the CIC personnel right at the only entrance in and out of that door. We've had a few want to leave, but get discouraged.
Youth and Family's not like a law enforcement type deal. It's a shelter.
It's a shelter.
Whereas the detention facility is where you go when you get in trouble, or CIC when you
We work with Youth and Family. If we have a runaway, things like that, it's going to be days before somebody's going to pick them up, we can place them up there. So it's a cooperative effort. Any questions on CIC? That was pretty simple, and I'm done. Joe.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Mayor, City Manager, view of the Fire Department budget for 2013, 2014. Be real brief initially, and I'll get down to capital outlay and what my plans are with the majority of my money, and then open it up for questions. Starting at the top under personal services, our costs are approximately $400,000 over last year, and that can be attributed to projected wage increases and the increase in our health insurance transfer with our health insurance costs going up. Under contractual services, we have a decrease in contractual services of about $150,000. This reduction is mainly due to our grant expense reducing by $220,000, and that means that the money that we've requested in grants is less this year than what we requested last year. Professional services under that category has also increased $50,000 for funding of the Autry Tech training tower. Under maintenance and operations, we have about a $40,000 increase over the previous year budget. We restructured the mechanics division last year, and this has increased our maintenance and repair volume to a point that we have to increase our tools, parts, and supplies, and tires and battery category would be underfunded. We also have an additional $20,000 in uniform in that category for scheduled inspection and repair of our personal protective equipment. This equipment was purchased by grant in 2005, so it's about 7 years old. We try to get 10 years out of it. There's a new NFPA standard that has us inspect and repair equipment. It's a recommended practice we're trying to follow, and it also increases the life of the gear, but it does cost money. $20,000 for inspection and what repair we might have is going to be dedicated to that. Down to capital outlay, I have an approximately $180,000 increase over last year. We're going to replace a 1987 model grass rig. It's the last grass rig that was in our plan for replacement. It'll be at a cost of about $85,000. We have $30,000 for a replacement of a 2004 Ford Explorer that is used in the Fire Marshal's division. There's also $40,000 of specialized equipment underneath capital outlay. We need a new set of jaws of life to replace the war and the aged pair. Some of the equipment that I've budgeted here in capital outlay was equipment that I've asked for in grants for the last 2 years, and it doesn't seem too receptive to FEMA to fund them, but we do have a need for the equipment, so I'm budgeting it this year. Part of that's a confined space supplied air respirator, which is a manifold that has tethered lines for supplying our men when we go to confined spaces without having to wear an air pack on their back. They can go into confined space. We also have some $4,000 worth of SCBA communication devices, and this is devices that we'd use in a hazmat situation, in a hazmat suit. We really haven't had anything for quite a while in that category for use in those environments, and it's needed. I've also had a request from the men for physical fitness equipment for roughly $10,000. Also under capital outlay, I've got 2 stations with deteriorating concrete. Station 1 across the street in front of the ladder truck. The heavier equipment we buy, the worse our concrete holds up. So I have about $50,000 worth of work over at Station 1 scheduled for next year. In Station 5, where we bought the quint and stationed it, is in the same shape due to the same reason, heavier equipment on lightweight concrete. Also have a replacement of 2 HVAC units at Station 1. And the public areas at Station 1 are in need of some refurbishing, so I've budgeted $40,000 for new flooring, ceiling tiles, lighting, redo of the bathrooms in the main public areas of the station across the street. It was built in refurbished in 1984, and we haven't done very much maintenance to the main area there. Also in the budget, you'll see $75,000 dedicated for funding the new Station 4 design. I plan on land acquisition this year and design, and I've talked to staff and Mr. Benson. If we get far enough along that I do need appropriations for building of the station, I'll be back to ask for that. The money is in my fund. I'm projected a deficit budget around $90,000 as it stands, but I have a fund base that remains healthy and has the money for a new station if needed. That's brief summary of my budget. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Which station is number 5?
Station 5 is out on Garland.
What did the last station you built cost?
Right at $1 million.
Are you expecting a similar cost for station?
Well, I'm hoping it'll be a little reduced, but that would probably be a good estimate.
What's your progression on the new station, Chief?
Initially, it's land acquisition. I'm working as now on a RFP for architect for design. That would be the next step. The architect would give us a schedule of design and build, and also get a projected cost and get the paperwork in line for going out to bid. If we make it far enough in the year that I get to that point, I'll have to come back to the commission and you, Mayor, to see if you'd appropriate more funds for the building of the station.
Are you satisfied with the location you're looking at?
I'm satisfied. I've done quite a bit of work searching for areas for land for the new Station 4, and for varying reasons of where we're at now, and I think it's publicly known that we're looking at Lions Park. It will work for a station location fairly well. It has good access to 3 main fire lanes. The spot's big enough, and we're in the process of trying to get it be platted as a park and used as a fire station.
Commissioners and Mayor, Chief Jackson's efforts on this issue go back well over 18 months. He and I have been looking at property for some time. In fact, before his death, Phil Clover and I discussed a new location. It's been a long-standing requirement, and in the interest of saving the community tax dollars, I assisted in the development of this plan. So if you want to shoot at somebody, you can shoot at me too. That is city land. It's a great opportunity. It will decrease the insurance costs of that community. Joe has not had the opportunity to present his elements of what he would intend to do to mitigate some of the concerns that have been identified by the people. But neither of us, collectively or otherwise, have made any decisions. We were looking at options. We were looking at potential ways that we could deliver to the community a core service. And I'll guarantee you, having lived in a house that burned down, you darn sure want one close by when that happens.
I would also like to say there's a letter going out, it went out today to the residents that live within 300 foot of this proposed property. It's basically saying, feel free to contact me. I'd like to explain the reasons and intent for acquiring that property. And I welcome the questions and comments. So I think it'll work for the city of Enid, it'll work for the fire department, and it has some advantages. And I want the people to know that I'll work in any way or any manner to make this work for them as a park, as well as worried about or trying to take some of the issues of noise and sirens into consideration also.
Chief, will there have to be any changes made on the street there? I guess that's Main that you would be on. Would it face north and you would exit on Main? Is that the
Could exit off Main.
Would you have to widen those streets, reduce parking on there? What would have to happen in order?
Street width is fine. We'd have to have a controlled intersection at Cleveland, because that would be the route for the majority, if not all, responses to Cleveland. The property is large enough to hold the station, and like I say, I'm willing to discuss with the residents there about the use of the park and possibly keeping playground equipment on the property. And there's no reason that we have to run sirens from the front door of the station. We could hit them at the intersection of Cleveland and Main.
Chief, there was a gentleman that inquired in the local paper here recently about vacant lots on Oakwood Road as potential sites.
Yes, sir. When we're looking for a site for a station, we're looking for a call volume and response time. And to move the station to Oakwood was be irresponsible, in my opinion, because it's too far west. Chestnut to the north, or Chestnut Cleveland intersection is too far north. Ideally, we'd be a little further west than our proposed location here, but land is limited in the area I'm looking.
Is that primarily because of service to the south rather than service to the west? South of Garriott, I'm sorry.
We need to keep our, if you looked at the studies that had been done before, they would say that where the existing location is in the 200 block of West Garriott, we should move north and west. But it wouldn't have us move all the way to Oakwood, and it wouldn't have us move all the way to Chestnut. So ideally, there'd be a place about where Staples sits available to us.
They don't want to move. They probably don't want to move.
I doubt that.
And there are other opportunities, there are other locations, but it's going to cost a lot of money to place them there.
Tell us again what your response time, average response time is.
Probably looking 4 to 4.5 minutes from any station to get a first unit there. We had the management study done last year.
Yes.
That showed that we met the standard of 5 minutes, 89.4% of the time with our first initial arriving unit.
5 minutes was the proposed standard.
It also showed we had overlap between Station 4 and Station 1, which we've known since Station 1 was built. They're not always in ideal locations. I think the ideal location is not available to us, but this location at Lions Park will definitely fit the needs of the Enid Fire Department and the community.
But the community doesn't agree with that assessment.
Any other questions?
By the number of phone calls I have received from the people in that neighborhood who are having a meeting right now about it. So.
Anything else?
Thank you, Chief.
Bet.
This time, I've had several requests for a 10-minute break. We'll take a 10-minute break and be back. We are ready to begin.
Another plus.
Item 8.3, consider a resolution amending the 2012-2013 Enid Event Center and Convention Hall Fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $170,000 to increase the 2012-2013 appropriated amounts for the Enid Event Center and Convention Hall Department.
This is another good news story. You guys should be chomping at the bit to approve this thing. Because this is about, thank you. All right. This is about hotel taxes going up.
Whatever.
And they're going higher than we expected. We budgeted 1.3. They're coming in at 1.755. So that's a difference of $455,000. We don't get to keep all of that. 37.5% of that goes to the county. So that's what this item does, is raise the budget to let us pay them their 37.5% share.
And we get the other.
We keep the rest of it. We spend it in the Fund 60 to run the event center and convention hall.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Mike. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote.
Hey, Mr. Benson, how'd you like that presentation? All right.
Would have appreciated that enthusiasm with the rest of the budget.
I like that one, Colonel.
Good job. Item 8.4, consider a request to name the gymnasium located on North 10th Street in Champion Park.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we not approve this request. We were discussing this in the. We don't know what we're going to do with that building. We do know that it's not going to be a neighborhood gym, and so we're not sure whether we assume at this time we're not going to demolish it. But in any case, since we don't know what we're going to do with it, I don't think it would be appropriate to name it.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. We also have a person signed up to speak to that item.
Rick Hughes, you'd address the podium with your name and address.
Rick Hughes, 1222 North 10th. In honor of my father who fought in 2 wars, World War II and the Korean War. Ever since then, I've been trying to honor him. And now an opportunity has come up to name the park gym at Champion Park, the Gene A. Hughes Memorial Gym. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, you do understand that, like I say, that's not going to be a neighborhood gymnasium. It's not going to be kept open, you know, where children can just go in and out of there and play basketball or whatever. I mean, we're just not certain what the future of that building's going to be. We've discussed it as potentially using the restrooms, and I think there is going to have to be probably some fairly major repairs done to it before we can use it for anything at all.
If that facility is not used for that purpose as your request, are you still wanting that request honored? Okay.
Ron, repeat your motion, please.
My motion was not to approve this request, Mayor.
I would, while we're still in discussion, I don't think it's any fault of Mr. Hughes that his timing is just in our disarray of what the policy is. Had he come to us 6 months ago, I don't think there would have been any issue in doing this. So I don't see punishing, or denying the request just because the timing.
I agree. That wholly.
I don't think we're punishing anybody. To me, it's not appropriate to name somebody, to honor someone with a building that's not going to be. We don't know what the future of that building's going to be. Do you think? If you know more about it than I do, well then maybe that it would be. But
I don't see what difference it makes.
His concern isn't what use that building is going to be. It's going to be there for those that use that park as a whole to see. And so, I mean, if it doesn't matter to him what the use of that building is, then I don't know why it matters to us.
It's just a locked building that's got someone's name on it.
Well, it won't be locked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time.
Yeah, my motion still stands.
I think the policy that we discussed in the study session this evening that will come before us soon, I looked at that specifically with an eye towards Mr. Hughes' request. I do not think we would grant his request based on the policy. Now, we haven't passed that yet, and we may not. But based on the criteria that within that, I don't think we would be able to honor his request based on that policy.
Well, it actually doesn't agree with the existing policy either.
Given all that confusion, I'll re-up my second to say no.
Motion by Ron, second by David. Further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote. Motion carried. Wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. I didn't see that one. Motion carries 4-3. Item 8.5, I'm sorry. Consent item number 9.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recommend that we pull item 9.6 for separate discussion and approve the remainder of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by David, a second by Ron, to pull item 9.6, approve the others, correct?
Yes, sir.
Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We'll go back to 9.6. Approve and execute an economic development agreement with Enid Crossing Investors, LP, a Texas limited partnership. Andrea?
Each of you has had the opportunity to review the economic development agreement. There has been one change. I will say that I can't remember what date it was on, but the commission, after an executive session, approved an offer of a 1% sales tax rebate to Hunt, or what is now going to be Enid Crossing Investors LP, as an economic development agreement. After discussions with Hunt and concerns from the commission, the clause that has been added reads, Enid Crossing agrees to commence construction of the project within 30 days of closing on the real estate purchase and sale agreement between the parties dated February 27th, 2012. And a portion of the project will be complete by December 25th, 2013. And when we say that a portion of the project will be complete, it means that one store, which cannot be named, would be ready to be opened by the retailer on December 25th, 2013. At least one store. That is what can be guaranteed by Hunt and Enid Crossing. After much discussion this afternoon, that is all that we could get promised was the one, just with not being able to control contractor schedules and retailer schedules. That is what Hunt can guarantee. The rest of the contract remains the same. You'll note that it's a 1% sales tax rebate. If there are no sales, then obviously there is no sales tax, and obviously there's no rebate. The rebate would have to be earned within 15 years. If it's not fully earned, up to $950,000, then the remainder of it would be kept by the city. And I think those were the only contentious items, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think we also have somebody signed up to speak.
And one element warrants explanation. The developer cannot guarantee that the stores will be occupied by the listed retailers. They can't control the retailers. They will and have guaranteed the construction of the completion of the facility by December 25th. So
All of the construction will be done.
that's correct. All of the build-out will be completed and available for those retailers. We can't ask Andrea Chisholm to control Eric Benson's investment schedule. It's the same thing.
Anybody to control anything that you do.
Well, but that's the comparison. The developer with whom we have the agreement has met your demands and guarantees the facility will be commenced within 30 days, and it will be available for habitation by retailers by Christmas.
But of one of those spaces?
At least one.
At least one. And is that their quote-unquote anchor, or is that?
Yes.
It is.
Okay.
And at that point, if I understand that correctly, then Hunt Properties will have expended the majority of their capitalization expenses on that building by that point, right? They'll just
Absolutely.
be waiting on retailers to move in. So
That's correct.
for our investment, we will have gotten the promise that they made, basically.
That's correct.
Yes.
And what do we anticipate to be the closing date on their existing contract?
We believe it's around June 11th. It will still depend on when the title company can close and when we get the final documents. We're still waiting on some affidavits to come back from U.S. Beef, and it's some affidavits that say that they understand that there's a joint use of the parking lot and things like that. So we're waiting on those to come back. But we believe it's going to be around June 11th. So coming up soon.
Like I say, since we've been waiting to close this out for a year, I figured we'd have the documents in hand.
Well, we're waiting on other companies to send those back to us. I have sent those out, and we're just waiting on companies to send those back. So.
As I've expressed in previous sessions, I can't agree to a 15-year rebate. I don't have any strong objections to the amount, but to me, any rebate that they can't get in 5 years, I'm not in favor of. And I also have a question, and I think this is addressed to some extent in the contract that we received. We're in effect committing future commissions to continue this rebate payment. Is that correct?
Well, this agreement is between the EEDA. The short answer is yes, but the agreement is between the EEDA, the city, and Hunt or Crossing investors. So really, EEDA, which is the same trustees, carries on that responsibility year after year. But
There is
short
a cap.
answer is yes.
There's a cap not only in time, but in dollar amount.
Yes.
It's an either or, and whichever comes first.
Whichever one comes first.
I understand that, but
Plus, today, we're getting zero.
Zero, yes. The rebate is 1%. we get the remainder immediately upon, any sales tax being earned there. We being the city, gets the remainder. So right now, we're not getting anything. We will get something.
Well, yeah, but I mean, to me, it also establishes a precedent that anybody that comes to town with any kind of business is going to ask for a 15-year sales tax rebate.
And they can all ask all they
Right.
want. And
Yep.
all we can say yes or no. And we can't say that we haven't been saddled with stuff from previous commissions. We're still having to.
Well,
deal with
I'm
stuff
just
from
talking
previous
about the
commissions.
legal aspect. The state law requires, we can't commit, we can't commit other future commissions can.
Well, which is why EDA carries on.
So that, yeah, we've got a legal out. Anyway.
7 years times 0 is still.
0.
I'll make a motion to approve and execute. Oh, we've got somebody signed up, you said.
Well, and I also,
Wait a minute.
Sure.
You have a motion?
Well, do we need to listen to?
Let's get a second, then we'll discuss it, Ben. Okay. Sure. Don't go away.
I'll make a motion to approve.
By Mike, second by David.
Second that.
A question?
I obviously wasn't part of this presentation from Hunt. This is from prior session, and so obviously I don't have all the details, and the commissioners who have been here through all this will certainly have a little more information. I just think this is a bad precedent to be setting. When you sign a contract with the city of Enid, I expect you to perform under that contract. Hunt Developer came back to us and said, we can't perform under this contract, we'd like some more money, please. Now, we are effectively, giving them that money because I think the assumption that we would have nothing is a bit of a false assumption. This property value is going to dictate in the next few years, I firmly believe, that this will be a viable property for someone else to purchase. With our mall development and with the other general uptick in Enid, this property would not sit vacant for another 7
I don't think anybody's
But-
assuming that it would.
Wait a minute, let him talk.
But so when we say that we would have 0, it's not necessarily 0. We would have some undefined lack of sales tax revenue until it was sold. That being said, I don't want someone else to write a contract with us to either a development agreement or a purchase contract, or what, in essence, what's been in place before is really more an option to purchase than a purchase contract. I don't want someone to sign an option to purchase with us and come back later say, I need more money from that initial contract, and you've done it before, so I know I can get it. I think it's a bad precedent and leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I just feel like that's worth noting.
Thank you. Tammy? You had a comment?
I want to ask a question.
I think that saying that we are assuming that it's going to sit empty is not an accurate statement. We don't assume it's going to sit empty, but the reason we've gone this way is because we are convinced and happy with what will be going in there.
The other presentations that we saw lacked in the grand scheme of what they presented. That's why we went with Hunt in the first place, because it seemed to be the other people that wanted it didn't really care what went in it as more what didn't go in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe our stance was we actually care what goes in that building, and, to have to start over, and wait another year to get this deal done was rather unattractive. And that's why we agreed to go back and do that, not cowering to their, well, it's going to sit empty if we don't buy it.
I think that the value of the property has probably gone up in that year, and I think they're getting a good deal. There are votes where there aren't for this additional incentive, and if this additional incentive flops, that's not to say that they can't still execute under the contract in place. I don't think they will, but that's still not stopping them. Do we have someone sign up to speak on this, or?
And I think Commissioner Tim also had a question.
On the date, the difference, December 25th, there have to be a store operating by December 25th, or just be finished by December 25th?
It has to be ready for a store to operate by December 25th.
I don't like that. That could be next June.
I'll be honest, though, there's no way that Hunt can control when that store opens.
Yes, they can. They're coming to us asking for this deal.
Actually, they can't, Commissioner.
They asked for $950,000.
That's right, and they don't earn any of that, not a penny of it, until someone's in there generating that sales tax. Well, you know, you weren't here when this discussion has been developed over the past year, and I can understand your confusion on it and even your stance on it. But we've entered into an agreement, and tonight we're asking for you to ratify a master development agreement, not a contract of whether we're going to sell this building or not. That deal has been signed.
It's not my understanding of reading the contracts that we were presented by Hunt. Mr. Benson, clarify for me, but if I'm not mistaken, the one large retailer that I think we're talking about, who can't be named, their lease required that they have an open store by November 1st, if I'm not mistaken. I think commissioners were taking a fairly low risk, in my opinion, on having at least one store open, Rodney. I think most of you know I've been very vocal. I'm against buying businesses to come to town. I think private enterprise ought to do it on their own, and I don't think we ought to give anybody money. But when you sit back and put this package in its entirety and realize that we are so close to finally closing the first retail business for this town, I've had to just kind of swallow my belief that it's a bad thing to do and say, you know, for $950,000 is what's holding us up, then I'm in favor of this.
I've got no problem with tax incentives. I think tax incentives are a great mechanism to get retail. I just don't like the precedent of sign a contract and then come back on it.
Well, and I've been very vocal about that. I didn't love that either. But it is what it is, and here we are. So
I agree with you, Ben.
I don't think anybody loved it, and I've made that very clear that I did not love that, and so.
Extremely clear.
I'm sure.
There isn't a
Thank God
retailer in
paper
the
wasn't
world.
there for how clear it was. But we're where we are now, so we have to make the decision.
There probably is not a retailer in the world that would open on Christmas Day.
Right.
They're going to open that as quickly as they can, and it takes a while to stock it, the soft opening and the grand opening, and all that will happen bing, 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 if they want to start earning that $950,000 back. That's my theory. We have Brenda Dill signed up to speak. We have a motion and a second. Brenda?
City Manager. My company is in the process and has been in the process for 2 years to redevelop Oakwood Mall. We have been fighting for the same tenants for a year and a half with the Homeland Project. You all gave us some TIF funds, which we greatly appreciate. The mall couldn't have been done without those TIF funds because there's 60% of those tenants that their rent will not increase, yet we have to spend the dollars to rehab the mall. By doing this incentive with Hunt, there were 3 other offers to purchase that building. No incentives were asked for or to be given on those 3 offers. One of them was from us, $1,875,000, more than the city was paying. We'll be happy to reinstate that contract. I think what you really all need to understand here is that you are putting a 550,000 square foot mall and cinema at great risk here. So you can kind of have your choice. You can have a 40,000 square foot project, or you can have a 550,000 square foot mall and cinema. And I would ask that you please table this until you all have a better understanding of what you're doing and what you're providing Hunt. I think that you're being shaken down. I agree, a contract is a contract. If I came in here and asked for the same dollars based upon what you're giving Hunt, we would be asking you for $11.5 million on the mall. Our TIF is $525 million. So I would ask that you please table it tonight. As you know, the ICSC convention is going on right now. We are extremely close in having a commitment to move forward with the mall under the time frame that we discussed with you at the last meeting. However, once again, if any of those tenants jump ship, it changes our economics, it changes our percentage of leasing, and it very well could cripple the project.
Brenda, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Since I've seen the contracts, I know the answer to this question, but I'd like your stance on it. The keynote retailer in this discussion has a signed contract with Hunt Properties. they had a letter of intent with Vector Properties. At one time, they had a letter of intent with both you and with Hunt Properties. I've known for some time that these retailers are playing both ends against the middle and placed us all in a very difficult situation. But the truth of the matter is, they have a signed contract to place this retailer in Homeland because they wanted it open by the Christmas season. And that's simply not possible at the mall. What's the likelihood of this one retailer being the swing vote in the development of the mall or the Homeland or both? And let me preface that by saying the city of Enid has almost $2 million invested in one of these and none in the other. So we want them both. We don't want one or the other. We want them both. And I believe this commission, this community is willing to do what is necessary to make that happen.
You can have them both, but you have to understand the timing. We have been very direct with you since day one.
Indeed you have.
That we had to get this thing bulletproof. We had to have it about 90% pre-lease before we could ever get financing on it due to the size of Enid. We have always told you that. The tenant, the anchor tenant that you're talking about has told us that they do not have a signed contract on the Homeland building.
Well, I've seen it, so let's let that subject
so
rest.
that's fine. You know, as you say, these retailers do. It's not the anchor that we're talking about that is the problem. It's the other retailers that they're going to pull off us. In addition to us, we have a letter of intent with Petco. They are going after PetSmart. If they get PetSmart, Petco pulls out. So it is a domino thing that you must understand. We can't create retailers to come to Enid. As much as we love Enid and we know it's doing very, very well, until there is a viable, great project going and they see that there is opportunity here, these retailers are very, very, very gun shy. And we've got the synergy going with the mall tenants that are existing there that we are keeping. We have enough letter of intent signed up that we're almost at 80%. But if this Homeland project does move forward, I'm telling you that if we lose 15 or 20% of those tenants, the mall and the cinema very likely will not happen.
I've done a little bit of asking around. I work with folks who are more active in the Tulsa area, which is, I know, where you have done a lot of development. I've heard really good things about you folks. And,
thank you.
And I'm glad that you're active in Enid. That being said, I've also heard you're hustlers, and that if you folks lose one little tenant because of this project, I firmly believe you'll track someone down. You folks have a lot of time and a lot of money invested in this, and I hate this come back to us for more money deal that they're pulling. But if this passes and you lose one little retailer, I have a lot of faith that you folks are going to come up with that extra percentage. I've seen how these packages get financed, and I understand what percentages you're talking about. But based on your reputation, I think you'll come up with it.
Commissioner, let me just say that if there were a lot of retailers out there to replace these retailers with, two companies wouldn't be fighting over the exact same retailers for a year and a half. This project, the Homeland project, could have been done if a different developer had been chosen and had gone a different route. The mall could have been underway right now if we had not been fighting this issue. So to say that we could go out there and replace those, this is our third ICSC. It is very difficult to hold all of this together, to hold all of the anchors together, and to get this all put in place and negotiated. And you know, we've got over 2 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in it already. So if I sound upset, I am. You know, that we feel like we came here as a partnership with the city. We came to you very directly, gave you our game plan, asked for your help, and you were kind enough to get married with us to do the TIF fund. You're working against yourself. This mall is the most important. It's your biggest revenue producer in your host city. It is the most important asset that you have to keep viable. The mall will continue to fall down. The mall will continue to lose tenants. You are going to have a mall that will eventually fold up, and you will lose that source of revenue. You know, I'm asking you to please table this until you all can really, really understand what you're doing here and get some feedback from your representatives that are out at ICSC. You need to really understand the repercussions of what you're doing here. We've tried to come up many times and tell you, and we've said the same thing every time we've come up. You're not hearing anything new from me tonight. So, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm pretty sure you all know the situation.
Brenda, we have been told over and over again that there's a synergy when businesses and retailers come to town, and that when one comes to town, others typically will follow. And the one in particular that's been discussed that cannot be named is one of those that others follow. So is that are we being using fear tactics, or is there a likelihood that some of these other retailers that tend to follow, will they follow?
Those are the same retailers that we're fighting over. Those are the very same ones. The anchor that you're talking about, yes, they do attract a certain number of retailers, and those are the same retailers that we've been buying for.
So there's only
back and forth.
Two retailers.
Only 2 to 3
There's only two, apparently.
that will follow that
No,
group?
these retailers are quite strange in that they have little packages, if you will. If you go and look in front of a Walmart, you'll see the same kind of tenants in front of each Walmart. That's just, they kind of have figured out who it is that they can go with that draws the traffic for them. So, that's why we were so aggressive in going after all. That brings some other women's retailers in because they're great traffic producers. So I know y'all find this to be so strange that there can't be more retailers out there. But if there were more retailers out there, we'd be a lot further along, and we wouldn't still be fighting about this stupid Homeland building a year and a half down the road. You guys have you've held that off market. You've had to spend money. You've gotten no money. The money hasn't even gone hard. And now they're coming back and saying, oh, by the way, we can't do what we thought we could do, and we need $950,000. And now you're giving them an unfair advantage over us, because if you were going to keep the playing field equal, you should be giving us $11.5 million instead of $5.25. You're giving them an unfair advantage. And that's what you really need to dig in and understand before you enter into this agreement, what you really are doing here. And there's going to be big repercussions from it.
Still, I'm sorry, but I think I understand this issue pretty well. And to put this in perspective, ladies and gentlemen, the mall is 500,000 square feet. We're talking about somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet that we're arguing over. That's less than 1% of your project. If that's going to cost you the project, then maybe it should. If you can't do this over 1 to 2% of your bottom line, and we want you in Enid, believe me, in particular for the other projects that you have in mind that you're also going to bring to Enid. But I'm just not going to sit here and accept you to make me feel sorry for a 1% difference in your total project. And Mayor, I'd like to end discussion and call the question. That requires a vote.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now are we ready to vote now?
Yes, the question's been called. You have to vote.
Vote on the motion that Mike made and
Yes.
Ben second.
Actually, what we have to vote on first is to end discussion.
Call the question, don't we?
Vote on that. If we don't want to end discussion, then vote me down. If you do want to end discussion, say yes, then we vote on the motion.
Okay.
According to Robert's rules.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Now, back to the motion.
I made a motion to approve and execute the economic development agreement.
I'll second that still.
Have a motion by Mike, second by David. Please,
We need to clear the board.
please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2.
Brenda, would you stick around after the meeting? I have something else I really want to discuss with you.
Item 10, we will now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 11, trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting are all in attendance. Item 12, Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting. Approval of claims in the amount of $93,583.87.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Tammy.
Second.
Second by David. Any discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 13, we'll adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 14, trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting are all in attendance. Item 15, Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $17,355.27.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Ben. Further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 16, we will now adjourn out of the Enid Economic Development Authority and reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item 17, public discussion.
Christine Red? Is Red, are you still here? Okay.
Red or Reed? Red.
Red. Renee Massengale?
Renee, I will give you 90 seconds to present your public discussion, and since you were here and talked for 16 minutes the last time, I will limit you to 90 seconds this evening. Go ahead.
I called last week to set an appointment to have a sit-down about more than just the buses. I was referred to Joan, who I have dealt with in the past. Now, if I want to be on the phone or across the desk from somebody and listen to them whine about what they can't do, what they're not qualified to do, what isn't part of their job description, I'll volunteer. That's not what I went to do. What wound up happening is I was voicing my opinion. She entered an area she had no business being, which is between my elbow and my shoulder, and then started screeching. No. She then decided to call the police to be her bodyguards because she felt intimidated. Well, you know what? I did turn around and wave my hand between my shoulder and my elbow and tell her to get out of my face and go sit down, which is my right. The fact is, I should have done a whole lot more. I didn't.
Mr. Mayor, I point out that her time has expired.
If I were to call the police and try and use them as my personal bodyguards because I did something inappropriate, I'd be the one arrested.
Thank you.
Why isn't she under arrest?
Thank you for your comments. We will move on. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Ron.
She doesn't scream.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned.
There were other people that were accused of screeching. Am I